You are listening to Two Peas in a Pod by defactobooks.com, and this was our first recorded episode.
Yes, and we recorded it live in front of an audience at the Wild Detectives.
Shout out Wild Detectives in Oak Cliff.
Yes, and I just so happened to be very sick for this episode, so excuse my voice.
It's a good one.
Most definitely, y'all.
You made it through, though.
We made it.
We had one of our favorite spiritual goddesses as our special guest, Miss Tastee Shines, so...
We hope you enjoy this episode.
Love is forever, so that relationship is evolving right now. It's time for me to reread this damn book. It's hard to read this book because I need to make sure that I don't ever choose needing to be loved by someone else more than I love myself.
From De Facto Books, I'm J. Nicole.
And I'm V Diggity Dog.
And this is Two Peas in a Pod.
What's live? What's poppin', Wild Detectives family?
Hello, everybody.
Greetings.
Yes.
It feels great out here, doesn't it? I'm loving the sun. Not too hot, not too cold. What'd she say on Miss Congeniality? What's that date? Y'all know?
Nobody knows what you're saying.
You don't Miss Congeniality? Y'all
It's
crazy.
been so long.
It's been a minute. It really has.
Ask me about a Friday movie.
Bye, Felicia.
Not that.
I seen her say April 14th. That's what it is.
Someone got it.
It's not too hot, not too cold.
It's just right.
You said it very confidently, so we're going to go with that date.
Yes. Shout out audience, Wild Detectives. So guys, we are here to record our first live podcast episode that will launch our first actual podcast series for De Facto Books. And we are defactobooks.com, defacto_books on IG. And we create book clubs in and outside of prisons in Texas. And we have an ongoing book club here that happens every other Sunday with each series that we do.
We just got done reading How the Word is Passed. We had an awesome event up here. If you guys haven't read that book, I definitely recommend it. Before that, we did Spirit of Intimacy. And then before that, we did All About Love. So I read 2 books about intimacy and love, and I'm still learning. And, and I still don't have it all the way down. They've been a good reference piece to always go back to when I'm feeling a little bit lost in whatever relationship I'm trying to navigate.
This book will wreck your shit. We're going to talk about this a lot today. If you haven't read Bell Hooks' All About Love, this is a book I would highly recommend anybody rereading, especially if you've had like a relationship shift or change to where you've moved into a relationship, out of a relationship, whether that be what you want to call romantic, and we're going to break down that word today too, because that's not real, right? But yeah, read this if you haven't. We'll talk a lot about it, so hopefully you'll be inspired to grab a copy of it.
So we should probably tell them how we know each other so we can get a backstory.
Bitch, who are you?
When I got to high school, I had an English teacher that I couldn't stand who got on my nerves. And she's sitting right here to my right.
Are you serious?
Yes, 100%. And I totally, now that I know her as an adult myself, I totally understand why she was so hard on me. What her goal with us was, right? And it totally was not even, I'm over here thinking, she just wants to ruin our lives and give us all this work.
I did want to ruin your life.
And read these dang books. Oh my God. Flash forward, I ended up leaving whenever I graduated. But one time I came home and I got caught with some Mary Jane and sent my little self to jail for a little bit. And it was then that I kind of realized what the system was, what it was like on the inside, just how terrible it is because I wasn't even a bad person. I just got caught doing something stupid. I had made a mistake, and it was like my whole life was ripped away from me because I made one tiny mistake. And I reckon with it. You know, I now take full responsibility for it. It's no one's fault but my own. However, flash forward, there was a lot of stuff going on in the media right before COVID. We all know Black Lives Matter, just the whole shebang. And I never really got to connect with the Black side of my family, so I didn't really know how to help or exactly navigate, but I knew that it hurt and I felt bad and that I wanted to do something. So, flash forward, I messaged her and was like, hey, I see that you're posting stuff all the time. Can you give me some guidance on what I should do? And she was like, you know what? I'm a host, a Coffee with Miss J.
We did that shit.
She did, and I met up with her, and now she is my work wife. I am conjoined to her hip, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Real facts. It's crazy. That is the journey, though. That's true story of how we, how Spirit led us to one another. But yeah, we're business partners in De Facto Books now. And
tell them how De Facto got started before me.
Yeah, so
'cause that's important to love, for sure.
So I've been an educator for over 20 years now. And, you know, as a kid who was also in a whole lot of trouble myself and watched a lot of people that I love get locked up very early, for a lot of them for life sentences. Texas is different. We don't have resources or educational platforms in prisons for people. There is no reformation or being able to change course from wherever you were when you got there, right? And like even Jasmen, even in the semantics that we use, you know, Jasmen had said, you know, you got locked up for some Mary Jane, and you're not even a bad person, but, you know, people in prison are not bad people either. Everybody makes mistakes and has to make choices in the moment. A lot of those same choices, we can't judge people for the choices that they make because we don't know where they came from and we don't know what led them to that day and that moment. And I'm a big believer that we change often, right? We're going to talk about that a lot today on the podcast. And so when you lock up someone who's a 17, 16, 18, 19, 20-year-old who doesn't really even have the cognitive development of an adult, and you have them there for over 20 years, what do you expect to happen to those people, right? And then because the fact is they're going to come home, right? And then what? And so we have to create spaces for that. And so the way, you know, we got started was having a whole bunch of locked up loved ones. And so I knew as a former literature teacher that literature is catharsis, the ability for us to learn through the stories of others and have those meaningful connections, even when we don't have human connections, is so important. And that for me was the way Spirit led me to say, okay, this is how you heal people, right? You give them the tools to heal themselves. And so what kind of literature is that, right? So we looked, and in Texas, they ban a lot of uplifting, positive literature specifically written for Black men, and those books even can be banned up to having like an image of a Black person on the cover, and things that are just specifically designed within the system to make sure love can't pour in, right? And so we found ways around that. That's what we did. We spent 2 years learning all of the policies of the prison system here in our state and how to become ether through the walls. I'm going to just leave some of it at that. But we got things in that needed to get in, and namely literature. And that's still happening. And now we are a licensed corporation. We're a publishing company. And we published our last book, first book last year, which is a collection of poetry written by our inside authors. So all of these men in this book are currently incarcerated. One of them is free since we published the book. So we definitely have that book on sale after the podcast for y'all. It's called Surviving Lockdown. And it's poetry they wrote during the pandemic when we were all locked down. So it's their experience with what lockdown is. And I just say they're the best teachers for us as to how to be locked down and still be okay, right?
Not lose our shit.
So that's how it is. So we started book clubs, and that happened organically. Literature was just going in, and the men would, email me and call me and say, how do we get more copies? And we would get more copies, and then they would create their own book clubs in each unit. And in Texas, they're moved around a lot in prison. So keeping a cohesive group of 5 men to be able to have a book club for a whole book season is very, very much impossible. But if they have the book in their hands, they can still correspond through us. And so we made that happen. And now we have the 10 leaders, and we brought the book clubs to the streets. So we do them here.
The streets.
We just finished our fourth season.
Fourth season, yes.
With Clint Smith's
That's my
How the
favorite.
Word is Passed. And then
Most
what we
definitely.
do is we present a live show at the end of each book club. They've been here up to this point where we showcase local poets, artists, musicians, rappers, everybody in our collective.
We cultivate community. That's basically what we do.
Right. And then bring our brothers to the stage, even though they can't really be here. So, yeah, we do it for them. And yeah, that's what we do.
So we got this bright idea to start a podcast. So here we are. But we did. We wanted to be able to talk about all of the knowledge that we got from these books and present it to a mass amount of people, as much as people we could. We are going to manifest and try. So this, exactly that part.
Well, we know everyone's not going to read a book.
Yeah.
And so that's why we have the performances, right? That's why we have the social media outlet. And it's why we want to present platforms like this to bring guests like our guests today that we will introduce to you very shortly.
Yes. So this season, we are covering a couple of different topics, anywhere from ego to triggers to love and intimacy. So they're all going to be knowledge that we get from our books. And the next season, make sure you stay tuned.
Next season.
We just left from a trip to go visit one of our brothers in prison. And we had a cabin stay where we had some great conversations. And we kind of just
Poor
took y'all.
Derek.
Yeah, that was a trip.
2 peas in a pan.
We're 2 peas in a podcast.
We're 2 pussies in a pod.
No.
We got headphones on our peas.
Headphones on our pussies.
We kind of just took you guys on the road with us because what Clint Smith did in his book was he went to different sites that related to slavery. And he kind of just shared that experience with you in a book. And it was beautiful. So we want to go to historical markers here in Texas that are related to slavery. And we are going to
Tell those stories.
in podcast, y'all. Because I always wonder what those dang signs mean. The historical markers ones, they're like random. And they can just be some random house too.
And they're always some bullshit.
But that is besides the point. We are here. We are right here today at this podcast stage. And we have such a beautiful, beautiful guest. As I know y'all can see her to my left. Yes. This is Miss Tastee. You can follow her on IG at I am Miss Tastee. And you can also hear this great vibe.
Goodbye, good riddance to anything that try to take you from my mission. Get lost sometimes like I'm losing my vision. Self-doubt be really trying to break my spirit. Got me asking questions like, why am I so different?
I love her.
Yes, Tastee. So tell us, are you reading anything right now?
I used to love reading when I was a child, but I kind of fell off. I listen to audiobooks.
That's good.
More than,
That's reading.
yeah, right? So, I mean, it's not, it's different. It's different when you like actually have the book in your hand.
I mean,
but it is still reading.
No, but
it's,
Spirit will lead you to the experience with the book that you need to have. Some people need to see the book, touch the book, smell the book. But if you're still intuiting all of the vibes through listening to it play to you, then you're reading.
Yeah. So the current book that I am reading is Developing Your Self-Esteem, because I've been through a lot of traumatic experiences that have like made my self-esteem low. And so I like to intentionally raise my vibrations and intentionally do what I can do to be confident. So I like to read self-help books right now. Back then, I used to love like love books and romantic books. Like I am a hopeless romantic, but currently I'm reading a lot of self-help books to just help me not be a product of my environment.
Well, I am the same way, Tastee. I
Yes.
literally cannot stand fiction. But I love self-help books. And I loved All About Love and Spirit of Intimacy because they are a self-help book. They're just self-help books about how to navigate relationships. But it's still helping you at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
This book changed my life. This book will remind you that everything that we do in our Western culture in regards to spirit and intimacy is wrong. I mean, we're not wired right. And it's why relationships have so many issues. And, you know, one of the things that we do at De Facto Books exclusively is community is over everything, right? It's over competition. It's over all of it. Like, our whole job is to create spaces for people. And when I say community is the only thing that matters, it's the only thing that matters, because we can't really do this journey by ourselves. And our culture is very indicative to make you think you can, right? You can just be at home, have everything delivered to you. You don't need to leave. You can get all, you don't need people. You don't need connection. You don't
got
need
Uber Eats and DoorDash.
No, you need
What
accountability. You need a mirror, and you can't have those things if you're not creating a community that has that sort of vision on the front of their mind as well.
Yes. So we met Miss Tastee. Miss Tastee, where did we? It was just at our show, at the first one,
I just
at the
snuck in.
Spirit.
But you were
of
already
Intimacy.
following De Facto. Like, we were already led to Tastee.
Yep.
Like, that's how it is with everybody. That kind of like, we get into like this cultivation, and it's like, okay.
You always get the divine
Yeah, we were already
souls.
following you on IG, and I was tuning into your Wednesday thing.
My Soulfed Wednesdays.
Yes, tell them about that.
Okay, so I feel like personally for myself, I struggle with depression. It's still something that I do like struggle with, but it's not as bad as it was in the past. But spirituality personally saved my life. And so I feel very deeply about that. And personally, that's why I want to read this book, because it's the spirit of intimacy. And I feel like anything that's spiritually aligned or that feeds your spirit or that is intentional towards your spirit is wonderful. But I do these talks every Wednesday on my Instagram. I am Tastee, I.am Tastee. And we just talk about things. There's no just. We talk about things that I'm doing my best not to downplay what I do. But
Yes,
we talk about things that feed your spirit. Like, we have so many topics on there. There's one about reparenting yourself. Some people have really good childhoods, but some people don't. Some people parents weren't present. Some people parents were their bully. So we talk about different things like reparenting yourself, how using your voice is your own superpower, your own shadow side. Like, it's a lot of different topics. The next week's topic is going to be about loving yourself without feeling guilty. So I don't know if any one of y'all are like people pleasers or put everyone else before you, but that's something that I struggle with a lot. And so it's something that I have finally overcome, but that was difficult. And excuse me if I curse y'all, because I do curse a lot. But
You can definitely curse.
I curse a lot. I'm working on it, but I'm patient with myself.
I'm not.
But yeah, like I felt guilty loving myself. Like, I felt like the people who were around me, like if I took energy from them to love myself, that they will no longer be around me. So I'm excited for that topic, or they will no longer like want to be my friend. And so I'm very excited for that topic. Hopefully T will be on it, but if not, like the topic is still going to be the topic. But yeah, every week we do that at 12 p.m. Just different soul-fed
Tune in.
topics. Yeah, it's very amazing.
Tune in.
Definitely tea. What are you eating?
I'm over here slobbing down on this. You got it. Listen,
She didn't have to do all of that.
I have to tell you about this, though.
It
Listen to
is
me.
really, really good.
This is an infused Kool-Aid pickle. Let me tell you something. Listen, I can't. Okay, it's so good. It's so good.
Nobody want to hear you smacking.
Okay.
Anyways, they're over here to our beautiful table to our left. I got a brownie, y'all, and I love that it's
You
sitting
need
out
'em.
in the heat. Everything is infused over there at the table to your left. We got cupcakes, we got cookies, we got s'mores. This is Miss T Asia. Miss T
Tease Treats. And you can get her at Tease Treats _U on IG. Did I do that right?
You will not be disappointed. I
At
promise.
all.
She's got.
What are you eating? You're gonna.
I
eat
got
your
the brownie. I got the brownie this
Tastee,
time.
what'd you get?
It's a strawberry brownie.
Y'all, I've really just been waiting to break into this since the intro with y'all.
She really about to eat.
Like,
Look, I got the infused
that lemonade
right here.
Take
I've
a
already had
sip.
half.
She's a professional. I'm just like, I don't know if any of y'all lightweights and
"Take a
babies.
sip. Don't drink the whole thing."
I have all my
stripes.
stripes in this game
Yeah,
right here.
she got too many stripes. Don't try to keep up because you're gonna regret it. Unless
yes.
you're a professional too.
No, for real. Do not
I
try
don't-
to keep up with
I'm not.
Vanessa.
I learned my lesson the last time. I got a whole nickname and
was
everything. Not gonna do it.
She was funny.
Do not keep up with me at all. But look, y'all, she gives you these little spoons that look, they pop out and they go click, and you can just eat it right there on the go. You're like, eh.
And they'll never know. They'll never know it's not just a regular
Living
cupcake.
the T Streets life.
For sure.
So
So,
thank you. That she is
yes,
our
she takes
sponsor
Cash
of
App.
this show.
So don't be
Yes.
afraid. Do not be
Up
afraid.
there.
This live episode was sponsored by Tease Treats and their wonderful edibles and infused drinks and pickles. Oof. They definitely had us right.
Check them out on IG at ttreats_you. Hey, you over there. Do you like what you just heard? Then you should support the Two Piece community by sponsoring our podcast.
It is a great way to get your product, craft, and brand noticed. And
It helps you network with the community's finest creatives and business owners.
so become a sponsor, damn it.
We have 3 packages to choose from, and we even have product trades for new and small business owners.
And we won't kill that marketing budget, honey.
Yo, go to defactobooks.com and click
Join.
Let's move right into what we came here to talk about, you guys. We came to talk about love and intimacy and relationships. And I see you over here said, people are cynical about love. Ultimately, cynicism is the great mask of the disappointed and betrayed heart.
Yeah, that comes from bell hooks.
Can you define cynicism for me?
You want me to define cynicism for you?
You're the English teacher.
I love when people say that, like I have the key, like I'm the gatekeeper to words. That is not how that works
Should we ask Google?
at all. Do you want to
No.
ask Google or do you want me to tell you? I will tell you.
I want you to tell them because these people are waiting to hear.
So in this particular context, it's saying that like people are jaded about having the experience of allowing yourself to just let go, right, and be present in the moment with another human. And so when we feel connections when we feel them with folks, right? And you either choose to ride that wave or you choose to be like, skirt. Like I'm mega runner. I have my running shoes on at all
She's a
times. I'm
Scorpio.
out that bitch. Like, bye. No, thank you. Oh, you got feelings? I gotta go. But that's just, my issues that I just did on here for you.
And I'm a Leo, so I love feelings.
Yeah, all the feelings. This is why we're good in business, right? But the reason I think that quote is relevant to today's conversation is, we don't ever do anything without bringing our brothers with us. And like, y'all got to remember, we have partners that are locked up over 20 years at this point, right? So they have never even been in love, right? Or felt that feeling because they were locked up at such a young age that they didn't have the opportunities. So yeah, so then you have to remember if you're locked up, right? You obviously have trust issues, like that goes without saying, right? And then you're expected to trust. And then the relationships that you can engage in are generally with people that work for the correctional institute, right? They're COs and guards. And so there's a power dynamic that comes in those relationships that doesn't necessarily apply to free world relationships. So you have all of these things, right? So they have a lot to navigate in terms of intimacy and love relationships. We recently, we've been working on a project with them over the last year because we're gonna put out an erotic poetry collection for y'all next year. And getting them to write that poetry was an interesting struggle, right? Because some of them have not actually had physical encounters with anyone on a sexual level in so long that writing about it brought up a bunch of stuff for them that they then wrote other poetry about. So, yeah.
It's definitely weird. And you can definitely see, I recently worked with one of our brothers, and I tried to shower love with the way that I know how to shower love. And it was one of those where they go into, you can tell how they don't trust anybody, right? Where that anxiety comes from, because once you've done anything to them, even if it's a mistake and you are solely sorry, it's left field. Then it's fuck you, don't
You're
talk
dead
to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
I don't owe you shit.
there's no, hey, why don't you listen to me and hear me, and let's spread unconditional love between each other so we can figure out this problem. But so yeah, it's definitely hard to shower them with love when they get home.
But think about like how many years we've all been on the planet, walking the planet, learning to navigate those same things in relationships when we have all this practice, right? And I'm still not good at that shit.
Right.
Like, Loki, I'm not. So I still have to like leave sometimes because I want to cut a bitch. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really, exactly. So we all have like levels of comfortability with being vulnerable, right? In any given situation. And I think I'm learning to kind of just do it, right? And just be with it. I think that's how we've cultivated this community we have now, is by letting that go. Yeah. But
letting your ego go. We were just talking about this, Tastee, how like when you're in a relationship, how nobody is perfect. So it's kind of like, whose shit do you want to put up with? Like you got to pick a person in their shit to deal with. And if you can deal with it, hey, because it's all about what? Compromise. Yeah, it's all about compromise and communication. Like you should be able to talk and have an intimate relationship.
What's that song? I'd rather be with you and all your bullshit.
Yeah.
Is that a song?
With you and all your bullshit.
Yeah, I'll pull it up. We'll end with it.
You and all your bullshit.
It is a song, and it's because it's like, right, we all have bullshit.
We all do.
Does your bullshit fit with mine? Cool, let's rock it out.
Yeah, period.
So I guess in a sense, you really shouldn't be cynical, and it should just be like, oh, because that's the other part. And we talked about this in this book, about how when you like start dating someone and you think it's going good, and then their bullshit starts popping out, and then you're like, oh my God. Then you just try to start making them into the person that you want them to be, right? Mm-hmm. And then you start fighting and shit starts getting toxic, and it's crazy. So I think you have to learn how to be able to just let go and notice, like, you're mad dope, and I do like you, but I don't think that we are like intimate soulmates, right? Is that what you would call that?
Because I think that, our culture tells us that we have like these set roles of how relationships are supposed to look, right? These very heteronormative roles. And that's not the way souls connect. And so it's also, I think it's very detrimental to assume that we're going to meet like this one romantic partner that's going to satisfy all the needs of our spirit. Yeah. And then we put that on them, and then we wonder why we have problems and the relationship doesn't work out. And then because we have no community structure, we bail instead of figuring it out, right? And so I think that we have to just keep, like we're talking about, it's about being present. Yes. And not having expectations when you meet somebody of who they could be to you, because you may never know. And if you have a set expectation, you're going to miss what spirit is sending you in that person. Awesome. So Bell Hooks gives a definition, which to me, this is my favorite definition of love. I try to keep this with me, especially when I get mad at people I love, because it helps me
remind
reconnect,
myself.
like what's important, right? But the definition is, she didn't write it. It actually comes from The Road Less Traveled. But it's love is the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. So I'm gonna serve you that one more time. Love is the will to extend oneself for the purpose and nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. That doesn't say anything about romance. Yeah. That doesn't say anything about sex. That doesn't say anything about friendship or all these labels. It's just
extending yourself.
You're in my life. Yeah. What's your purpose? How can I help you get there? Yeah. And if our souls connect, we're going to be reciprocal in that energy, and everything's going to be Gucci. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Can I read what Sobonfu has to say about romance?
Please do.
Sobonfu said, romance means hiding our true self in order to gain acceptance. It begins with doing every little thing for our partner, neglecting our true feelings until we reach a point of serious depletion.
Wow. So romance has like a negative connotation with that.
Yeah, and you pulled it right from the book, and it's on the list already because I knew you were going to pull that. Yeah, but I love this too. Like Bell Hooks says, love is as love does. Mm-hmm. Love is an act of will, namely both an intention and an action. We do not have to love. We choose to love. That's like with me, that's heavy because it's like
I know your Scorpio self because she takes one chance to be like,
I will block you so fucking quick. And then I'll unblock you because I'm Scorpio, so I'm also crazy.
But I got to call.
I'll be like, I blocked you, right? No, I'm
toxic.
I'm terrible.
I'm a Scorpio too, by the way.
Oh, you are? I did not know that. That's too funny.
Scorpio power.
Love that.
Scorpio ring
That's why we need all of that quiet time because we exert so much energy when we put it out there that it's like, I need to recoil now under my rock.
Right.
And please get the fuck away from me.
You know?
Well, so I wanted to give y'all the definition because the other thing she says is that love, as we talk about like specifically our brothers and then the fact that most of them have experienced childhood trauma and that also leads to many people's issues with how they experience love in their adulthood, right? And the idea that, this idea that only love can heal the wounds of the past. However, the intensity of our woundedness often leads to a closing of the heart, making it impossible for us to give or receive the love that is given to us. And in that same context, she says that once we learn that love is the will to nurture our own and another's spiritual growth, it becomes clear that we cannot claim to love if we are hurtful and abusive. So love and abuse cannot coexist. Mm-hmm. So the idea is that, if you have toxic patterns where abuse feels like love, right? Like, because abuse can feel like a nice warm bath if that's all you know, right? Yeah. And so you've set those patterns in your consciousness. So that's the type of love you attract into your life.
We literally was just talking about that. We want to tell them what we were talking about on that?
We were talking about just how my past connections could affect the current connection that I have. So I was just like, it's not going bad. It's just a lot of past energy into this one. So it's like we really have to work through that before we can actually see each other for who we are. So it's like they could do something that could trigger something in me, and I'm bringing up all of this anger, this resentment, like you did this to me, but they didn't do shit. They didn't. They triggered something in me, but I'm bringing up all of my stuff from my past. And so, like, for myself, I do appreciate, just the spiritual growth that I've been undergoing and am undergoing because it really does help me. Like, I allow myself to express my emotions. That's something that I do allow for myself to do because how I fell into depression was completely negating my emotions. Yes. And so it's like when you have to feel the pain and the pleasure. And I feel like sometimes we do our best to avoid pain, and when we cut off our feelings altogether. And cutting off your feelings altogether blocks you from feeling pleasure as well. You're not feeding your spirit. And that's when you get depressed because you're not a part of this life experience. So about a couple of years ago is when I finally awakened to my actual emotions and feelings. I started to ask myself, how do I feel? And it awakened a lot of pain. And that's like years of like abuse. Like, I was raised in abuse, but I don't like to be a victim. I'm a survivor. Yes. But it is a lot. It does affect my mind. It affects the way I show up. Like, I do get really emotional, but I allow myself to express my emotions, but it's scary. It could be scary sometimes. I am appreciative to have a patient partner who, like, sees me past it. Like, they see my love. They see I'm trying. But, like, and vice versa as well. They've been through things as well with past partners. It's like, oh, you don't really not trust me. You've just been through experiences that, broken your trust because it's like physically in the physical based off of my efforts, you see that I'm a trustworthy person. You see that I love you. But because of your past experiences, you want to paint me as this particular picture because you're trying to avoid pain. Like, I feel like we avoid pain more than seeking pleasure. Like, we don't believe pleasure exists.
100%. But pain is necessary for evolving, right? How do you expect to evolve if you don't feel something and you don't sit with it and you don't reflect and learn through it? And that's what I was telling you, like, because I'm starting a relationship and I bring all of my past traumas into my relationship. And I have a very angry reactive attitude. So I've had to learn to just recognize and be honest with myself, like, that's how I am. Mm-hmm. Let my partner know and be like, don't talk to me. When we get in an argument, just let me go. Do not intrude, okay? Just let me go. Let me go reflect. We'll go smoke a blunt.
Take 10.
And let me reflect on what just happened and how I attributed it to it, right? What did I do to get you to that point, right? And what did you go through to get you to that point, right? Because you have to understand the other person and you also have to accept your own bullshit.
Word.
That self-reflection is everything. If you're able to self-reflect, honestly, you are a gift, period. Because you're like the human nature and just our ego, like our ego does not like being wrong or blame, or like feeling like we are wrong. So we do anything that we can to say that it's somebody else's fault. Like even our trauma, even our parents, like I did that because I went through this with my parents. And it's okay. Like that's the source of it. But it's like you have to be willing to take accountability for like, okay, like that could be the truth. It literally can be the truth. But it's like, what are you doing to negate that? You know, like how are you overcoming that? Like you can't keep saying, I respond this particular way because I never received love or I never had anybody in my life who did trust me. Like, because I feel like a lot of us could tolerate abuse because of someone's background. And that's where the overly compassionate part comes in, because I don't know like what side we're all on, because I do believe everybody can change. And I see like people who were the ones who were abusing people, like I don't want them to feel like, you know, oh, I'm a bad person. I did all these bad things, so I might as well stay bad. I really do want for them to redeem themselves. But I know for people who do get abused, we give so much understanding that we usually stay in abusive relationships and connections. And so I don't want for any of us to, like, tolerate their excuses. Like, especially if they're not doing anything in their physical to overcome those particular barriers. Like, yes, this is why I act this way. Okay, what are you doing to change that? And I appreciate when my partner, because they do ask me things, you know, like, what are you doing to heal? Like, what are you doing to grow? And like, I would tell them, you know, like, I would feel my feelings. I would reflect back on my past, ask myself how I feel about that thing, and then I would actually process it, see how it affects me. You know, like I know what lenses I have on because of my particular experiences. It's a default. It's default lenses because of the experiences that I've been through. But I like to see how I can put on different shades. You know, you literally got some automatic shades on, but you like, okay, I don't really want to wear these shades. I want to wear a different color shade. And sometimes you literally have to take these shades off. You have to put on a different type of shade. Like the shades you got on is the ones your parents told you, this is the one that looks good on you. Since my parents said that this is the one that looks good on me, I want the love from my parents. I'm going to keep these shades on. But these shades may not help you see, you know, properly to help you receive the things that you genuinely want to receive. Not your parents, but you know. So I like to do analogies because my brain don't process stuff unless I like connect it to things. But yeah.
So did you know one of the things as you were talking about some of the stuff that you deal with in your own relationship, but also I know the work you do. So I see that like reflected in your work. One of the things that we have put down to talk about with bell hooks today, which is why I'm just trying to get you to read this book. You see,
I'm going to.
I'm finna do. No, listen though. She says most of us did not learn when we were young that our capacity to be self-loving would be shaped by the work we do. So it's a direct, like you're a direct reflection in the community of the things that you're feeling and going through, and you're sharing that with us through your work. So it's impactful. Like we feel that energy. And we say spirit a lot in Defective Books. We talk about spirit, being connected with spirit because of these books. But I like the definition she gives of spirit.
Yes.
You want to give it?
Right. Yes. Her definition is spirit is the energy that helps us connect, that helps us see beyond our racially limited parameters, and also helps us in ritual and in connecting with our ancestors.
But I really like that because it said limited, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, that you're limited by what society has made you believe what spirit is or what a relationship is. I definitely believe here in the West, we have been ripped completely away from spirit and into capitalism, but I won't spread my hippie ways onto you guys.
I mean, that's what we do.
Instead, I will talk. When you were talking about being able to communicate with your partner, in Sobonfu Same's book, she talks about how over in the Western village, African village where she's from, they create these ash circles and partners sit back to back and they will literally just scream their issues at the top of their lungs.
I have so many people I need to do that with.
And then they let it go. And then they turn to each other in the ash circle and they start to have a conversation about what was just screamed, right? Yeah. But they have to listen with acceptance, right? Is what it said, and non-judgment. So I think that's key to any relationship. I'm not telling you to go, if you want to sit back to back and scream, I definitely would, but you don't have to, but you should definitely sit and create that intimate space with each other without a defensive ear, without judgment, so that you can talk about these problems.
Yeah. I like how you said without a defensive ear, because I feel like something that we naturally do as humans is just like when someone expresses, especially our partner, but when they express something they have an issue with, we be like, oh, I'm doing something wrong. Like, that's how we take it versus hearing what they're saying. Like, I don't feel loved when you do this. And so it's like, oh, I'm doing something wrong, but maybe they just don't feel loved because of that particular action. And that needs to be looked deeper into versus like actually looking at yourself or feeling like you're inadequate. So I like that. Being able to like express your emotions, because I feel like when you feel like you're doing something wrong, like your ego comes up and you're just like, I don't really want to talk about this. I don't want to discuss this. Like, you're trying to blame me. You're trying to say I'm wrong. And it's like, who's wrong, who's right, when that's not even the issue. The issue is like, this is a problem. Let's see how we can fix this problem. Like, let's look deeper than blaming anybody. Let's just listen to these emotions. Let's feel these emotions and let's work through these emotions together. Like, they're just here. They can be completely separate from our connection, but it is that emotion. That emotion is truth. Mm-hmm. Like, let's dig into this together, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, and then one of the things I learned from the Spirit of Intimacy book that, like, sort of clarified, I feel like, some of the issues I personally have had in relationships is that idea that we put so much effort and importance into this idea of romantic love. And in the West African villages where she's writing about, in the context of this book, she says, romantic love is an attraction that cuts off spirit and community, leaving two people to invent a relationship by themselves. It is the opposite of a relationship that lets spirit be the guide. And that's why I say community is everything, because
the right community, most definitely the right community.
Well, I wouldn't have stayed in relationships that like were low-key abusive, because if I was like living that relationship in my community, like for real, right? We often tend to like hide partners and from friends and family members because we have this concept that like we have to keep our relationship private because it'll be judged, or not even judged, but like it'll become toxic from like outside influences. And this, our business stays in the house type thing, right? And that's, a lot of people were raised that way too. But the crazy thing is like, so I read this book years ago, then reread it in college, and then I read it with a partner who is, somebody who was actually a member of the book club we were doing.
He was a founder. Don't tiptoe around it.
Yeah, no. I'm saying, but yeah, he was one of the founders of this movement with me. But he was a member of this book club. He had gotten out of prison and he was here physically coming to our book club, and we were doing this book, and we were like breaking up during the whole thing, right? So we're presenting a live book club to like the community about this shit. And I literally we couldn't even speak after the meetings, right? It was super confusing and it was a lot of fuckery, y'all. I'm not gonna lie to you. But I learned so much about myself through the process, and like enough to even be telling y'all about it.
Literally, I was about to commend you for that.
Because it was a lot, right? It was a lot. And the thing is, now that relationship has changed completely, Because that's the thing. I think when you love somebody, it's forever, right? You can love them from afar, you can love them up close, but love is forever. So that relationship is evolving right now. It's time for me to reread this damn book. It's time to read this book because I need to make sure that I don't ever choose needing to be loved by someone else more than I love myself. That's
big.
Hey. Yeah, man. Yeah, real talk. From De Facto Books, this is Two Peas in a Pod. If you like what you heard and want to support the community, visit defactobooks.com and click support.
You can also link up with one of our De Facto Kings and even sponsor a book club in prison.
If you're interested in learning more about the books and topics discussed on today's episode, we recommend All About Love by Bell Hooks
and The Spirit of Intimacy by Sobonfu Somé. If you like what you heard today and want to hear the rest of the live episode from the Wild Detectives, including Tastee's tarot readings for the audience, then simply become a patron and join our Patreon.
For the monthly price of your choosing, you can get exclusive access to all things Two Peas in a Pod, including video of our podcast recordings and trips we take to Texas prisons. So come smoke with us.
Come smoke with us.
Two Peas in a Pod is hosted by J. Nicole and B. Diggity Dog.
Audio editing and sound design by Derek B.
Music by Imperial Soul.
Thanks for listening, y'all. Yo, we love being a part of a community over here at Two Peas in a Pod.
And we would love to hear from you.
So go to defactobooks.com and click the Two Peas in a Pod page for episode Q&A, and let's get interactive, y'all. Just answer the questions that you want, and we'll share audience stories and responses in an upcoming episode.
You may even be asked to be a guest.